Hi, my name is Nick Karn, and this is my AEP 858 Module 5, telling my story. So, what I did actually to tell a little quick story is I evaluated our quarter one report card grades and just to compare it with avid students versus non-avid students since I'm the avid site coordinator. I figured this would be good data for not only myself but my students. And actually, I used it for my building leadership team as well, and they are implementing this to other programs to see if the programs are actually helping students as far as their grades go. And what we did is we looked at three different pieces of data. We looked at the report card and of each student in every single program, but we looked at avid students, we identified our avid students, and then we looked at non-avid students. So we're comparing the avid students to the rest of the student body. And so looking at all this data, we can get a good gauge of, is Avid really helping our students when it comes to their GPA/grades. So we broke it down by each grade. So this is the ninth grade. This is actually my largest class and also the largest class at Sierra. So if you look at the numbers, we have 31 freshmen in Avid and then 182 that are not Avid. So we have over 200 freshmen at our school. But if you look at the left side, there's our Avid numbers, and then you can see that what we did is we looked at passing all courses, so no Fs. I also included Ds in that as well. So these students would also include that they don't have any Ds or Fs. And then you have one F or maybe one D as well. We haven't done Ds in the past, so Ds are kind of new. So I included those in there. So in my book, Ds are still considered failing. And then multiple Fs. And so if you look there, you can see that the majority our students are actually, as far as freshmen go, have at least one F or multiple Fs. And then 48.3% are passing all courses. So we need to get that a little better, and I showed my students this as well, that we should get that one F or one D up, and then hopefully solve some of those multiple Fs as well. But then if you look at the non-avid students for Sierra, you can see that the majority of students also have one F or multiple Fs, but a much larger number. And then you can see only 36.2% are actually passing their courses. Again, this is quarter one, so I also said that freshmen are still figuring out high school. It's a little more fast-paced, and most teachers don't accept late work like they did in middle school. And so it's an adjustment period for them. So it's not too concerning, but it is a point to say this is still not where we want to be. As far as AVID goes, most of my students shouldn't even have an F. That's our goal. So if we have one or two students with an F, that's understandable, but when we have that many students, there's something that we need to look at to fix. So here's the sophomore class. This is actually, talking to my administration, this is one of our more troubling classes just due to behavior interventions and suspensions. This class has the most. As far as my avid students, again, we are kind of like the freshmen. We have a lot of work to do. You can see that there's one F, 23.8%, and then multiple Fs is 38.1%. So there's a lot of things there that we have to fix, and then only 38.1 are passing. And then if you look at the rest of the school, again, pretty high numbers of failing courses. Here's the junior class. So as you can see that it's a little smaller class than my sophomore and freshman, and then you'll see that with the seniors too. So it's not as much of, I guess there's just not as big of scale. And so we have to also look at that and say there's not as many juniors and seniors as there are freshmen and sophomores. So you have to look at the numbers as well and say, you know, we were looking at multiple pieces of data for sophomore and freshman, but then it starts to go down. So we have to see if there is something there that we can kind of see if there's a plus or minus there that we should give them. But if you just look at sheer numbers, we see here that the juniors are actually doing better than the other two courses. Not much, but they are doing a little bit better than the freshmen and sophomores. And then in the non-avid, they are still doing better, but as you can see, the avid students are doing much better than the non-avid students. And the thing that was shocking to me was just the number of multiple Fs and Ds that our students have. And it's a pretty significant number when considering how many Fs we have. Seniors, again, different spot in their life. I only have 9 in Avid, and then they're passing pretty much all of them except one are passing all their courses. So that's definitely a good sign, but also they're at a different point in their career, so they take school a little more seriously because they want to graduate and they want to get it done, and they don't have as many classes as well, so that could be a factor. And then you look at non-avid, most of the students that we looked at for seniors that have multiple Fs or one F aren't even showing up to school, so that's a concern that we have as well. But the ones that are showing up are passing, and so we can look at all this data and kind of determine, how is effective is avid really. And it's my first year being the site coordinator, and so we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of students that maybe shouldn't be in avid, that were put in there just to be put in there. And so we need to cut out those students, make sure they're getting better interventions. Because avid, again, if anybody's familiar with avid, they know that it's pretty, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it has to be a hardworking student in there. We're not looking for your 4.0 students, but we're also not looking for your 1.0 students. We're looking for that middle ground of students. And I think that in the past, avid was treated as more of an intervention course than it was a college-bound course. So that is something that this data can paint a picture for us to say, maybe we need to look at recruiting new students, which we're going to next semester, and then eliminating those students that maybe need to be in different programs that can help them either catch up in credit or possibly get them into some intervention courses, because clearly avid isn't really helping them if they're still failing all their courses. And then I just took the totals of each program, and then I looked at avid as a whole and then non-avid as a whole. So this is the whole high school. So as we can see, over half the Sierra students are passing their courses in avid. But again, this number is pretty high. If you split it, it's about 46.6% here that students are still having an F or multiple F. So that's something we need to work on. And when I showed my students this, they were kind of shocked. And the students that had Fs, they knew. And we know that we need to work with them to get them a little more support to bring those grades up. And then, but here's non-avid. So as you can see, avid has higher numbers, but there's fewer students. And usually the students in avid are more dedicated, more hardworking. But again, there's not that much of a difference there. Avid's only 10% better than the rest of the school. I would like that to be 35% better, just because I want to see that program's actually helping, and not just, it's just not just a program that's just there, that we're spending money on this program, that it should be worth it. So if you see here, we still have a lot of Fs in our school. And this is just from quarter one again. There's a lot of factors that go into quarter one, but still there's a lot of Fs and Ds that students have in this school. And so we have to also look at ourselves as a whole and say, what are we doing that isn't serving our students? And then we can look at classroom management, we can look at behavior interventions, we can look at all this data and say, what are we doing as teachers or as possibly admin to help the situation or hurt it? And so we have to look at this, but also we can look at attendance. There's a lot of different factors. So my goal in getting this data was to say, all right, is avid really helping? And is, like, what's the correlation between avid passing all courses versus failing? And right now we have not met our goals. We should have at least 80% of all avid students passing their courses. And if you go back, you can see that we're only at 51%. And so that's a goal that we have. So this data helps us set goals. It helps us kind of get a temperature check where we were at for the first quarter. And then we can also look at this as a recruitment tool to say, we don't have the right students in avid, so we need to get rid of those students and put in the right students, or we really need to work harder with those students and get them more interventions to help them. But as you can see, we're really not doing that much better than the whole student body. So there's something going on here that we need to fix. And so that's kind of my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I like to keep it simple, but as you can tell that throughout all this data, you can see that it's pretty clear cut. I like using the charts. It's easy for teachers to kind of see and analyze. And we already shared it with our building leadership team. My principal's already looked at it. It's just a good idea to do this every quarter for us, just so we have a good idea of where we're at in our educational realm here for our students. So again, you have to look at different factors as well, especially when you look at freshmen versus seniors, attendance, behavior, all those. But at the end of the day, this helps us set goals and helps us get to where we need to go. Thank you, and I look forward to your feedback.